part of the program. I'm not really ready for this, but first of all, I would like to thank you, everyone, for coming. I thought it's going to be just people from Laguna, I guess, but I'm glad to see friends from Loma Linda and everywhere else. Thank you for coming to comfort us. And as you know, that we will have viewing next week on Sabbath. That will be at 4 o'clock at Montecito Chapel in Loma Linda. Is that Colton, Loma Linda? And then the funeral service will be on Sunday at 1:30. Talking about my father, we didn't expect this to happen. I mean, I don't like to stand here to talk about this, but it has happened, and we know that we live in this world only temporarily, and I know that my father has chronic medical problems for a long time, and I kind of knew that his time probably is not going to be very long. So my father was born in August 1934, and at that time he was born in a Christian family, but not a Seventh-day Adventist family, in Kiawa, North Sulawesi, or Manado. When he was growing up, he went to school, I believe, for middle school or SMP in Tomohon, I believe. And then he went to high school in Kawankoan and graduated high school. He was telling us the story when he was a senior in SMP or middle school, which is, I think, 9th grade here, that one time apparently he did something wrong to his father, and his father was so mad, and pretty much he thought that his father was going to kill him. So he ran away and went to work climbing coconut trees. And he said he climbed like at least 100 coconut trees every day to make money. And he told me that when he was climbing, there are a lot of ants that will bite. And I said, so how many ants? He said, thousands. So how can you climb the tree? They said, initially it bothers them, but eventually you just ignore it. That's what they do. They just ignore it, climb, and pick the fruit, the coconut. As you know, they make copra, right? And then after he did that, he also mentioned sometimes when he climbed the trees, there will be snakes up on the tree. And so he was able to go back home, and he said he missed like 3 months of school. But then when he went back to home, he had to take the test, ujian akhir, call it for SMP or middle school, and he did very well. He came up like at the top. He did the best, out of all the students after not going to school for 3 months. Anyway, so he graduated from high school, and I don't know what made him to go to Jakarta. He decided to go to Jakarta. It was 1955. They went to Jakarta. And then he lived in Jalan Palm, or it's around Menteng, Jakarta area. And his neighbor was a lady. And the lady, apparently very attractive lady, and They didn't know each other, but at that time, I don't know how it makes, but their showers is like only separated by a wall. They don't see each other. And he heard this lady singing on the other side of the wall. And he happened to know the same song, so he would also sing the same song with her. One of them, like, when I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what should I do? And then so on, and he would say, que sera, whatever will be. So he then decided to visit this neighbor. So he went next door neighbor and then see like, oh, he's a beautiful lady. And they get to know each other. And that was my mom. And then he tried to date my mom, and my mom said, okay, you like me? Well, you know, you're not, we're not the same religion, you're not SDA. So, and he decided to go to the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Kramat Pulo. I think at that time was the only one, Kramat Pulo. And then he met with the pastor and decided to learn about our faith. And he was convinced. He said, I don't know, I'm not sure, maybe he was trying to impress my mom. He got baptized. And that was in 1958, I believe. And finally, they dated, and they got married in 1960, and were blessed with 4 children. The first time my mom was pregnant, my mom was sewing girl clothes, and then he said, what are you doing? He said, I'm just sewing her clothes, but we're not going to have a girl, we're going to have a boy. My mom said, no, we're going to have a girl. No, boy, girl. So they argue, and finally my mom said, okay, you win, we'll have a boy after we have a girl. But God is good to them, you know, and God gave them both, a boy and a girl. It's my sister and I, you know, we're the oldest. So, and then after that, we're blessed also with my brother, Pastor Michael, PALAR, and my brother Joseph. And right now, I don't know, how many grandchildren do you have? 11 grandchildren?
Yeah.
11, and 2 great-grandchildren. Okay. Let's see. So my father, when he went to Jakarta, he worked with a place called EPOS. I'm not sure what kind of company it was. And then not long after that, he and 2 other people make this, what do you call it, is the founder of this called, at that time, Sefe Hasrat Abadi, which is a business. They do a lot of trading, commercial thing, cars and other things. So this, apparently they're very successful, you know, over time, and they're pretty successful. But sometime early 1990s, he decided to retire from that company. Right now, the company is still a big company, very successful, especially East Indonesia. And because of that success, I think probably God blessed them so that they can send me to school to the United States. When I was in high school, well, when I was little, my mom kept on telling me that I kept on saying that I want to be a doctor. When they asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, in Indonesia, we always ask that. Yeah, I want to be a doctor. So after high school, I applied to the School of Medicine of the University of Indonesia and was accepted. But then, because they want us to go to school on Sabbath, I decided to stop going there. And my dad told me, So it will be up to you. He said, when you become a doctor, you'll be helping people. So he thinks it's okay, if I decide to go to school in Sabbath, be a doctor, because eventually we'll be helping people. But I was so convinced. I said, no, I don't think God will allow that. I don't want to, continue. So he said, okay. So where do you want to go? How about going to the Philippines? Because a lot of people, Philippines, you don't have to go to school on Sabbath or Saturday. I said, okay, give it a try. Everything's, because they're paying for my school, right? I said, okay. So I applied to college in the Philippines, and while I was waiting, there were two people from the United States, from Loma Linda, actually, who came back to Indonesia, and Rensendo was one of them. Rensendo went to La Sierra University, and he said, why go to the Philippines? Just go to Loma Linda. Here, I got the application. And I was like, oh, wow, application. Okay, we'll give it a try. So just to make a comparison, at that time, probably going to school to the United States will cost about $15,000 a year. When I went to the University of Indonesia, the first year of tuition was, for a year, $45. And then the second year, first year was $75. And second year was only $45. Of course, it's different now. So, and I really didn't know, how expensive it is, and I don't know how much money my parents had at that time. I just want to go to school, right? And plus the cost of living that I had to have. And apparently, my dad thinks, yeah, they can afford it. And my dad's philosophy is always, you need to get high education. Get high education. They will do anything, my parents really loved us, and they want us to be successful. My dad says, once you're successful, you don't have to worry about us, we'll be fine. So they just want us to be successful. So I went, and eventually, then I was able to finish medical school, and also residency in Riverside, and decided to go to Iowa. But come to look back, I said, wow, what a great, sacrifice that my parents had done for me. I can feel, toward the end of my medical school, they were a little bit struggling in sending the money to me. I felt that, and throughout my life, after that, my parents never said, hey, now that we send you to school, you need to give us, now you need to help us, No. When they need something, they would say, hey, can we borrow, I said, okay. I just give them money. I never ask them anything back, because I know what they have done to me, for sacrifice. So I really thankful for my parents. I know that God is, all the blessing comes from God, right? But we know that God used human beings to deliver those blessings, right? Telling people about the good news and everything is not like the stone speaking to us. So all the blessing come to us from God, but then this all comes through people who are delivering all those blessings. So I'm very thankful to my parents. My father in 1970, when he was 70, so 2004, started having pain on his chest. He read something in the newspaper. If you have this sign, you probably have heart disease. So he went to a cardiologist, and sure enough, he already had blockage in his heart. So he went to a cardiologist and went to the hospital, Seventh-day Adventist hospital in Bandung, and had a stent placed. But apparently there was not enough because he had so many blockage. And he came here and had a bypass surgery, 2004 at University of Irvine Hospital. They find out, in order to have the bypass, they harvest the blood vessels, right, from the forearm and sometimes also from the legs. I remember something they mentioned about the blood vessels was so small in caliber, so they were afraid that it's not going to be successful, but it was actually pretty well. He was able to get the bypass. After the bypass, he almost didn't make it, but then finally he got well and went back to Indonesia and come back here several times. And but he also has like mitral valve insufficiency, we call it. So the valve doesn't work very well. It doesn't close properly, and as a result, over time, the heart can get bigger and will have difficulty pumping. So he has that problem too. As a result, after several years, he had a condition we call congestive heart failure. When the heart doesn't pump very well, we notice that he feels short of breath sometimes. Also, in addition, because of the diabetes, his kidney is getting worse to the point where he needs dialysis. So, but he was holding on that and he was doing okay, even though his condition is deteriorating. And he came this time, back in September. The doctor, his kidney specialist, says, yeah, you need a dialysis. When was this? I would say last Monday. He called me and said, Adrian, I kind of feel more struggling with my breathing. I feel short of breath. I said, why don't you go to the hospital? Because I'm worried probably his heart doesn't pump very well. And finally, the next day, he went to the emergency room, called 911, go to the emergency room, and he was still talking, and I was able to talk to him on the phone and telling me the condition. And then I was told, okay, cardiologist saw him and they want him to have a dialysis. And I said, yeah, fine, do a dialysis. And in order to do dialysis, they have to put this big central line on the chest. And he had that done, but after that done, he had the dialysis. I called him where he was having dialysis. I said, Dad, how are you doing? He said, oh, I was bleeding a lot from that dialysis. And I got stomach pain, I was vomiting. And how are you doing now? Yeah, I still have kind of pain in my stomach. After talking for a while, okay, Dad, I'll talk to you later. And the next phone call I received from my sister says that the hospital the nurses, doctors were doing CPR on my father. And I said, oh, but they got him back. And so now they're giving, his blood pressure went so low, pulse was very low in the 30s, blood pressure, I don't know, in the 80s. They're giving IV medication, dopamine to increase the blood pressure. But by that time, he was sedated already, And that was about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock Iowa time. And about a couple hours later, my sister called me again. His heart stopped again. And I was able to talk to the doctor that did the CPR. He said, your father's heart is so weak when I to listen. And he said, probably if he's going to have another one, he's not going to survive it. And most likely, he probably doesn't get enough circulations in the brain. So even if he makes it, his mind probably, maybe he got like a stroke. Okay, I said, so do you want to do it again? If it happened again? And I told my sister, maybe just one last time. If that happens again, maybe quit. And sure enough, about 10 o'clock or something here, because I think it was about like 12 o'clock my time in Iowa. My sister, well, I fell asleep. My sister said she called me twice, and I didn't hear that. But then my cousin from Las Vegas called me. I said, Adrian, I'm sorry about your dad. I was like, what? And I opened up the WhatsApp, because they put everything there, and sure enough, my father passed away. My father is a very loving father, and loving husband. He cares a lot about us, the children, and also my mom. He's very generous. He helps the church very much, and he likes to help other people in my life. I felt that. I remember on Sabbath, usually when he was still active, had elders. He was like the head elders in Jakarta for a long time. We would visit people, and I got that experience from him. And he likes, one thing he likes, my parents basically, taught us to be kind to other people and not to lie. So that's gonna stick in my mind. No matter what, you don't lie, and be kind to other people. So that's what I remember about my father. And maybe my sister wants to help me with that, or anyone else about certain things, story about my father. I don't know if my mom wants to help me with this. Mommy? Oh. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to mention that my father was one of the 7 siblings that my grandparents had. He is the second. There was one, the oldest one. It's easy to remember because his name is Uncle or Om Sondak, which is my mom's last name, right? Maiden name. And then my dad. Oh no, that's not the oldest. The oldest one was a lady, Antonelli, her name. And then Om Sondak, and my dad is the third one of the 7 people. I think they still have like 4 now still living. They are in Kiawa, mostly in one in Jakarta. They wanted actually his body to be transferred to Kiawa. They really have a strong conviction that we feel like it's best that we're gonna bury him